Reaction to Australia's decision to recognise a Palestinian state is coming in both here and overseas. Israel's president has labelled Australia's move a reward for terror, saying it's a grave mistake that will not help Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority, which has agreed in principle to conditions posed by Australia, has welcomed the move, describing it as a meaningful step towards achieving peace with the two-state solution. Let's speak now to Global Affairs Editor Laura Tingle, who joins me now from Sydney. Good morning, Laura. Good to talk to you. You've written this is more than just symbolism.
I think it is more than symbolism, Bridget. Obviously, it is an important bit of symbolism. It's such a profound change in Australia's position and one that was a long time coming. But I think what Australia is trying to indicate in its statement yesterday is that it wants, and it's reflecting an international position on this, that the international community wants to become involved in reinvigorating the Palestinian Authority as a credible body to govern the Palestinian territories, what's left of them. And I think probably over the next few weeks we'll see more of that from others as well. But to give people an idea what that means, it's just the basics of life, of who's going to make the power system work, who's going to run the sort of state budget, if you like, the government, the absolute mechanics of government. Now, Australia has actually got a very long and distinguished record in getting involved in these sorts of areas, whether it was in some of those states that sort of emerged after 70 years behind the Iron Curtain in the 1990s. You had people like Treasury officials going to set up tax systems. You know, they sound like slightly boring things, but they're really important. And of course, we had a big role to play as well in Timor-Leste more recently, doing the same sorts of things, just getting those mechanics of government, as well as obviously the bigger questions of peacekeeping, which will have to be resolved, and reconstruction in Gaza.
There are a lot of threads to follow here, but what seems to you to be the defining moment in making this decision for the Prime Minister and for the wider Cabinet as well?
Well, I think there was probably an in-principle decision made some time ago that that there would be recognition of Palestine. I think it's been very much driven more by the international factors than the domestic ones. There's been this coordinated attempt and plan to try to increase pressure on Israel and, to a large extent, the United States to change their positions on Gaza. And I think the big issues were first the deprivation of aid and the growing signs of mass starvation in Gaza. And then I think when Benjamin Netanyahu announced last week that he was intending to move into Gaza City and occupy that, I think that probably brought forward the timeline for Australia to be one of the people on the roster, if you like, to announce that it would be recognising recognising Palestine ahead of the United Nations General Assembly next month in New York.
Notwithstanding the continuing support from the United States, does Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel appear to be increasingly isolated on the world stage?
Very isolated, I think, Bridget. A lot of countries are still indicating that they will move against Israel in the sense of recognising Palestine. It's lost a lot of its moral authority. The statements that the Prime Minister makes in Israel sort of look increasingly hollow. And you've even had things like the Germans, who are very, very cautious about what they say about Israel because of their own rather checkered history, announcing over the weekend that while they weren't going for recognition of Palestine, they were going to cut arms sales to Israel, which is a really potent signal, for a state that does rely on a lot of arms imports. So it is becoming more and more isolated, and of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu faces exceptional internal pressure as well. His moves to announce the move back into Gaza City have been opposed by the Israeli Defence Force, as well as a large section of the Israeli population.
Are there any other potential next steps the Australian government could take, especially given that immense community concern over the starvation in Gaza and the health and wellness concerns we're seeing across the enclave?
Well, the next step would be to make sure that there weren't any exports of anything that contributed to arms, which of course was something that was raised with the Deputy Prime Minister on the weekend. And the government sort of tends to keep saying, well, you know, we're not exporting arms to Israel, but without a doubt there's a lot of contributions to arms and components which are much more contentious. And of course there will be further sanctions to impose on both Israel and individuals within the Israeli government. So there are sort of further mechanisms available, and I think one of the things that is important to understand here is that the whole way through this, the government has been wanting to make sure that of the limited levers it has, it's still got something up its sleeve, that it doesn't just say, OK, we're going to recognise Palestine and then have nowhere else to go, without feeling that there's some momentum and some sort of international support for getting some significant change in place that's, as the Prime Minister has said, is going to mean something, and a lot of that is going to be about propping up the Palestinian Authority.
Global Affairs Editor Laura Tingle, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Bridget.
Let's get some more news for you now. A man has been arrested after 2 people were found dead at a home in Melbourne's southeast. Police discovered the bodies of the man and woman at the Mount Waverley home around 10 o'clock last night. A 34-year-old man was arrested at a nearby train station early this morning and will be interviewed by detectives today.
We are not at this stage looking for anybody else in relation to this incident. We believe that there is a link between our suspect and the address, but we're just working together at this point to make sense of what that means.
A 23-year-old woman has been flown to hospital in a critical condition, while a 33-year-old woman has serious injuries following an alleged stabbing on the New South Wales Central Coast. A 20-year-old man was arrested at the scene in Killarney Vale yesterday afternoon and remains under police guard in hospital in a stable condition. It's believed they're all known to each other. Donald Trump's administration is seizing control of the Washington DC Police Department and deploying the National Guard to crack down on local crime and clear the US capital of homelessness. The president has been warning of a federal takeover since an alleged assault on a Department of Government Efficiency staffer last week. In January, the Department of Justice said violent crime had actually hit a 30-year low. The number of people dying from drug overdoses in Victoria is at a 10-year record. Nearly 600 Victorians died from overdose last year, with drugs like heroin, methamphetamine, MDMA and cocaine responsible for almost 2/3 of those deaths. The State Coroner says the findings are a stark reminder Victoria needs to increase its harm reduction efforts. New data confirms last summer's marine heatwave resulted in the worst coral bleaching event in Western Australia's history. 2024 was the warmest year on record for global oceans, culminating in the 4th ever global coral bleaching event. The heatwave was the longest, largest and most intense on record for the state, resulting in bleaching for reefs previously unaffected by major bleaching. Tasmania's rail service provider has marked Rail Safety Week by sharing videos of near misses between trains and cars at level crossings in the state. Tasrail is urging drivers to be safe and more sensible around level crossings, but reported a significant increase in safety incidents in the past year. And Liam Hemsworth has posted a family photo to social media to celebrate his brother's Chris's 42nd birthday. Posting on a boat with his brothers, Liam wrote, "Never change. I hope I have abs like you when I grow up. Love you." That's a nice birthday message. 2-time Brownlow Medallist Nat Fyfe is calling time on his career after 16 years in the AFL. The 33-year-old says this year will be his last after battling persistent injuries, which have seen him make just 5 appearances for Fremantle this season. But the 3-time All-Australian says he's determined to finish his career with a premiership medallion.